Hello everybody and welcome back to another video for the day. We're going back in r/Tales of Neckbeard because you guys really do seem to like those storytime format videos. For some reason, I'm apparently really good background music. So if you guys would like to be absolutely amazing, show your support and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. Let me know some of the fun you did over this past weekend, because I'm recording this the weekend of Mother's Day weekend, and I got to go on a big-ass boat. A train ride with a gross neckbeard. After my last post, I wasn't expecting to write another neckbeard story so soon, but what do you know, after years of peace from weird guys, another one shows up. This happened a few months back while I was waiting for a train home. Although most of my university buddies are from different cities, none of them take the same train as I do, which means I mostly travel alone. I don't know why, but a lot of people tend to ask me for directions, so talking with strangers while I wait for the train just isn't that unusual. This time around, however, I was sitting alone, not paying much attention to the people around me, when someone suddenly says hello and sits right next to me. Thinking this is another person that needs help, I politely say hi and wait for them to tell me where they are going. Then, out of nowhere, this guy just casually grabs my hand and kisses it like he's some kind of knight in a medieval movie or something. I can't even describe how much I felt my skin crawl when this nasty, dry lips made contact with my arm. I've never experienced something this gross in my life. I was honestly in so much shock from that moment, I didn't even think of getting up and leaving. For some reason, my dumb and polite brain stayed put. I just honestly didn't know what to do, so I just sat there talking to the guy, trying to think of something. Spoilers! I didn't think of anything, and instead listened to his weird life story about how he was returning from his girlfriend back to his wife. Yes, the greasy dude apparently had a wife that he was openly cheating on, and he felt completely fine with telling all of this to a stranger. If that wasn't weird enough, he politely asked for my age. I didn't tell him my exact age, just that I was in my 20s. And how old was he, you may ask? He was 40. Once again, no shame in admitting that to a random girl that he just met. After that unnecessary information dump, he complimented me and then proceeded to ask for my number or if I want his. At that point, I just immediately shot him down straight up, telling him that would be weird, and left it at that. He tried a couple of times after saying, "Are you sure you don't want my number?" And I turned him down every time. Right after that uncomfortable exchange, I heard the intercoms announcing my train would be leaving at a different platform from the one that I was waiting at. This seemed like the perfect moment to escape this creep. But what do you know, he followed me to the other platform, and on the way told me he was taking the same train. Luckily for me, he wasn't getting off the same stop, so I would just have to survive the train ride, and then I'll be free. But a miracle happened while I was looking for a reserved seat. I found my seat, and to my horror, the seat right next to me was empty. I could see it on his face how happy he was to sit right next to me, but as soon as he sat down, a girl came over and said that the seat he was sitting on had her reservation on it. In the end, he got up defeated, and thanks to the train being absolutely packed with people, he had to go look for a free seat into a completely different cart. I sighed in relief and quietly thanked the girl who was saving me from that creep. After that gross experience, I was happy to talk to someone normal on my way back, and I purposely left the train on the opposite side just so that I didn't bump into that creep again. Lesson to everyone who travels alone: always be around a group of people, or better yet, have a friend with you to prevent these creeps from getting to you. Yeah, the buddy system is very much touted as a fantastic idea, and this unfortunately is one of the reasons it is a wonderful idea to have a buddy with you and just just go with friends. Be around people that can help you, because even if the person didn't actually have the seat reservation there, they were still doing something to help out. There can definitely be some real weirdos out there, and just maybe it's that they can't read a room, maybe it's that they don't like the fact that you don't like them to have any interest in yous and anything like that. But nonetheless, I'm glad that there are people able to step in and help out. A neckbeard story with a wholesome ending. I felt inspired to write my own neckbeard story because I've been listening to Vinci on Reddit, YouTube reading these. Highly recommend his channel. I do too, he's pretty good. And I enjoy his positive attitude a lot. I grant my permission to any YouTubers to use this story in their videos if they wish. Names abbreviated for anonymity. A slight content warning for animal desecration and my bad grammar. I don't speak English as my first language, and I am drunk the moment of writing this. Now, for some context, I grew up in a small town and had known this neckbeard since like daycare ages. I was, and still am, a bit of a nerdy girl and very femme-presenting most of the time. I also am what you would consider alternative in my fashion sense, which apparently is neckbeard bait, lol. This took place when I was 16 and he was 17, but we were the same grade because he was held back a year. I'm not sure if you could call this even a neckbeard, more like neckbeardling? I sorta knew our neckbeard pretty well. I did competitive swimming and he did diving, so we ran into each other a lot. We were in different classes, but we both took elective art and elective biology, so we also had a lot of classes together, and of course, we had a lot in common interests, such as anime and nerdy stuff. In appearance, he wasn't too bad. He had severe acne, which I didn't mind because I also had it. He was pale and wore down-torn jeans with a black hoodie, usually sporting an anime t-shirt underneath. He was tall and spindly looking, with a greasy mop of brown curly hair and crowning his head. He didn't smell bad, just overwhelmingly like a men's spray-on deodorant. He had an awkward voice. You could tell he was going through puberty by all of the squeaking and voice cracking. I had one friend, let's call her B, in elective biology class with me, and we did a lot of pair and group assignments. Anything from discussions to working outside, surveying people or traffic. I would always pair up with B, but a lot of the time, despite having his own friends in the same elective, our neckbeard M would choose to butt into our pair assignment. B was, and still is, a very kind and polite girl. Sometimes to a fault, but it is one of those qualities I really admire about her. I, on the other hand, was a bit hot-tempered and more assertive. Our dynamic worked really well for us. I would protect her from bullies and stand up for us both, and she would help me with schoolwork and socializing. We were both on top of our class, but I wasn't as well behaved, and it reflected on my grades too. I am still friends with her, despite us living in different cities now. Due to B's kindness towards M, he was allowed to work with us most of the time. I didn't say anything because I wanted her to be happy, and I knew she hated confrontations. One of these times, we were paired up with him, and we had to dissect a foot of a moose. B didn't want any part in it, so we agreed to let her just sit and watch as me and M did all the dissection. M was obsessed with being seen as cool, and though he could impress me with his knife skills, we had to skin the foot first before we could get to the joint and tendons, so we volunteered to do it despite never even filleting a fish before. I sat back and watched with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I just knew something was gonna go wrong, and it did. M cut the fur of the skin open and started removing it from the foot, except he was skinning it by cutting towards himself with the scalpel instead of away from himself. I tried to tell him that he was doing it wrong, but in his attempt to impress us, he refused to listen. The scalpel slipped and ended up giving him a small cut on the chest around the ribs. He was bleeding, and we had to go visit the ER to get some antibiotics, despite the injury being very minor. The feet of the moose we sourced by one of my classmates who hunted a lot. I'm from a hick town, so we couldn't be sure if the animals could have some diseases. Me and B finished the job, and it was actually really interesting to feel like I learned a lot. In another biology class, we were sent out to monitor traffic. We had to find a spot and count all of the different methods of transportation people we were using to make a diagram out of it. Me and B were leaving, and I noticed M lingering around us, and as we were leaving the classroom, he just tagged along with us, and we were forced to take him with us because every other group had left already. It was around May, so the weather was nice and warm, and we stopped by the store to get some snacks for our expedition. At the store, M insisted on buying the hot ladies something to cool them down, and he bought us popsicles. Me and M grimaced at each other, but accepted our free popsicles. We laughed at him so hard after the class that day, and still quote the line to each other after 4 years. We got to our stakeout spot on the edge of town square, and things were pretty uneventful, except for him staring at us while we ate our popsicles. I remember I made sure to bite mine as brutally as I could without getting a brain freeze. LOL. We spent around 1.5 hours there, and as we were walking back to school, we got to talking about how me and him used to go to the same daycare and the same preschool. He awkwardly told us that he used to have a crush on me when we were in preschool, and also when we were in grade school. I laughed it off and just told him I remembered playing with him as kids and having fun. It was awkward, but I didn't want to open a door to a possible confession, so I tried to change the topic as fast as possible. The worst encounter I had with him was when my, at the time, best friend S somehow had a crush on him. Me and her were really into Vampire Diaries and Twilight at the time, so I'm choosing to blame it on that. I tried to Wingwoman her in my nativity because I knew him better. S and M didn't have any classes together. I got his number from one of his classmates and texted him one night that I'd like to arrange a meeting with him to discuss one of my friends. Now, thinking back, this is incredibly creepy behavior from me, but I was 16 and never dated anybody. He agreed to meet with me. In hindsight, I think probably just because he had a crush on me. I told S he said yes, and he was bouncing off the walls excited, and was happy that I could even be helpful and if I disagreed with her attraction to him. A few days later, the meeting happened. I had mistakenly told some of the other girls in my class about it, and they were lingering nearby but not close enough to hear us. At that time, I was sort of popular. Most people in my school knew me by name because I had won a lot of competitions in arts and poetry and sports too. I was also the president of the student council and a tutor student, helped out younger students with getting adjusted to new schools, tutoring for free, and was a safe older person to report bullying and tell your worries to, etc. And was known to participate in and organize many fundraising events. I also had a reputation that I was not to be messed with, thanks to my volatile temperament and a few incidents of violence against people who had pissed me off. I am not proud of that and have since mellowed out a lot. With that being said, our meeting happened on a dreadful Monday on a break between classes that lasted 25 minutes. We met up near the main door and chatted inside the vestibule so we couldn't be heard by outsiders. Unfortunately, our conversation kept getting interrupted by a lot of students who wanted to say hi to me. That caused a whole another incident of people thinking that me and him were together or friends, which I hated. He was waiting for me there, and I walked up to him, and for some reason, we shook hands and he asked me what this was about. I explained to him that my best friend had a little bit of a crush on him and showed him a picture of her and asked him if he would be interested in meeting up with her. He agreed pretty quickly, and I gave him her number and Snapchat. I was about to leave, but he kept coming up with topics to discuss. He kept steering the conversation away from my friend and him to keep trying to talk about me and him and to get to know me better. First, he showed me his anime drawings. In the picture, he had his entire wall covered in pictures of anime girls that he has drawn, and as an art student, I do have to say that he had some talent. I was a bit weirded out by the wall of anime girls, but I couldn't really hate on him because I was wingwomaning, so I had to pretend to like it. The next attempt of keeping me there was him showing me his phone case and how we coincidentally had matching ones. I had brought mine from a thrift shop because my family was poor, so I couldn't really choose what to have. We both had the UK flag as our phone case, like it was trendy to have back then. We don't even live in the UK, lol. The third attempt to keep me there was him asking me if we could meet up again sometime. Maybe after our practices at the local swimming hall. I swiftly but politely turned him down because I didn't want my bestie to get the impression that I was going after her crush. And also because I didn't want to see this dude at like 9 p.m. after practice. The break was finally over and the bell rang and I was free. I swiftly made my exit and joined the group of girls from my class, telling them all of the horrid details of our meetup. My bestie wasn't at school that day, but I messaged her and arranged a date for next Friday. The school gated after school ends. She was happy, so I was happy, despite the suffering I had just endured. My bestie and he met up that Friday. It was so awkward, and that I kept an eye out on them, because I didn't trust this dude fully. He was super late to their meetup, and my bestie was texting me super stressed. I was watching them for like 50 meters away. Kinda creepy, I know. He finally showed up, and I saw them chat and start walking away. S texted me that they were going to the library, and I didn't have to follow them. The library was like a 10-minute walk from the school, so I wasn't worried when I got home. The next day, she tells me that he had taken her to a very small manga section in my small town library and given her some recommendations, and then he tried to get her to suck him off in the library bathroom. I wasn't expecting much, but he had always been at least somewhat polite and nice to me before, so I was shocked. S obviously said no, and their date ended to that. And there never was a second date. Fast forward to when the beer virus hit us, and we went to do lockdown. I got a part-time job at the library because my online classes didn't take up too much of my time. My family was seriously struggling with money because it was hard for my mom to find a job as a daycare attendant. My typical day at work was pretty nice and quiet. Since people were avoiding public places, I would spend 8 to 10 at stocking the bookshelves with returned books. Then stand at the register for an hour or two serving customers. Then I would take my lunch, and usually after it, I would host a storytime session and an arts and crafts for families with young kids. It was nice to work, and it made me feel good and to help parents struggling with kids during the lockdown by occupying them for an hour or two. After that, I would make displays for our promoted books to give book recommendations to our teachers. I got this task because I'm a bit of a bookworm and had read pretty much every young adult and teenager's book in the small library, so I knew which ones would be appropriate for kids above or below a certain age. Anyways, one day, guess who wanders into the library where I now work at? Our neckbeard came in pretty early and saw me restocking the shelves. I hide my annoyance because he is a customer and I'm at work now. He asked me what I'm doing here, and I tell them that I got a job here to help with my mom paying the bills, and so that I could take care of my sister. She used to come into work with me every day because she was too young to stay at home. I would share my lunch with her, and she would just hang out in the library until my shift ended. I remembered him telling me that that's awesome, and that maybe he'll come by more often since I'm working here now. He went on a tangent about how lonely he felt now because he didn't have school in person, and I told him that I understand how he feels, and that getting a job has really helped me with that. I said that I need to get back to stocking the shelves now, and if he doesn't have anything work-related to ask me, that he should get going. He unfortunately didn't get my very straightforward hint to leave me alone, and continued to pester me. He walked to the shelves with me, and even tried to push the heavy wooden cart that I used to carry the books on, because a pretty lady shouldn't have to do manual labor. I scoffed at him and slapped his hand away from the handle and told him that he isn't allowed to touch the library's property if he doesn't work here. He thankfully backed off but kept walking with me. He somehow got to the topic of anime and manga, and I started to not mind him. The library got kinda creepy when it wasn't busy, and I was alone in the sea of shelves. He gave me some anime recommendations, and I returned the favor. After I sorted out the books, I had to go serve patrons behind the desk, and he went to rent his books and left. After that, he started coming to the library more often and told my bestie that if she wanted to hang out with him, she should come to the library, but she declined because she lived an hour away in the woods. I got kind of creeped out by how often he was in the library and how he would come find me wherever I was. The library was 2 stories high and such a labyrinth. I just knew he was seeking me out on purpose, but I just went along with it because it was kinda nice to have someone keep me company in this creepy, empty library. I have since moved away because I got into my dream school and no longer live in the city where he lives. Once when I went to visit my mom, I saw him at the local mall and I almost didn't recognize him. He's now a trans woman and I am really happy she found herself. We had a brief chat and she seems pretty nice and pretty cool, and told me that she thinks her crush on me was actually gender envy. I chose to use he/him pronouns for her in this story because at the time she was not yet a woman. I have since gotten a boyfriend and a partner, and we are in a very happy polyamorous relationship. I have also realized that I am a gender, and not a girl. So, a happy ending for the both of us. Sorry this story wasn't super eventful or dramatic, but I think it can be a good example of how people can change, and how sometimes unlikable people are just still in the process of discovering their true selves. Have a nice day, and everyone, remember to be kind to yourselves. I'd say a story where everybody gets the good ending is a good story nonetheless. This, I think, is pretty good, and I hope that y'all are having a good time. You know, you having your dream job, and your friend just being happy in her relationship, and now how she feels about herself. I think that's pretty good. You don't get a good ending on these stories a lot of times, so it's really good when the Neckbeard stories just wind up having the good ending. A Neckbeard Rage Bonds and Nobles. This happened back in August of 2022. I would have posted it here since I used to browse here often, but I completely forgot about this sub for years until I suddenly remembered this place exists. LMAO. It was the middle of the month, and I was leaving for college in less than a week, and because of this, I was going to miss visiting my younger cousins for their 10th birthday. They were my only family on my mom's side that isn't in another country, and they live in the city, so we try to see them when we can. I noticed from the last couple of times that I saw them that they were watching Naruto on Netflix, and with their school starting up soon, I figured that they would be spending less time watching TV. So I decided to get them the manga version to read. I also picked up the first 3 volumes of One Piece Omnibus for them to try it out, for which they were huge fans of. I walked in and headed up to the 2nd floor, picked out my manga, and browsed for less than 5 minutes before heading downstairs to check out. I reached the checkout line and noticed that there was something going on. There were 2 people ahead of me, a middle-aged woman who was the second in line, and a man currently arguing with a cashier over something. The man must have been somewhere between the ages of 25 and 35, wore large, baggy cargo shorts, and a bright red shirt, and had a ginger beard along his neck, though not too wild. Think Burger Andy, only slightly less overweight. He was yelling at the cashier, a frail young girl who I couldn't see being older than 18, about the decks of cards that were behind the counter. Apparently he had been requesting one of them, but she was unfamiliar with them and couldn't find the right pair. Neckbeard was increasingly growing angrier by the second, just desperate to get his precious cards, demeaning the poor cashier for no reason, fumbling over his words. No, it's not. Why would I want that? It's not that freaking hard. The bottom pair. No, not that one. The woman ahead of me, along with some onlookers, were all bewildered to what is going on, and eventually he reached a breaking point, throwing his hands up in the air and shouting, "You know what? You have this, and have you," and threw his books that he had onto the counter in front of the girl before storming out. The older woman scolded him for his attitude, and he proceeded to flip her out before he reached the doors. The woman went to another cashier, and I went to the girl, and I asked if she was alright. She was, but she was pretty bewildered that it had happened. Also, I noticed the books that he was looking to check out were all sitting right in front of me at the register. They were manga. I could tell, upon closer look, I could tell that it was some sort of ecchi, which is basically softcore P. I couldn't tell you what exactly it was, but I vaguely remember the words sister and cute being in the title. I pay and walk out to my car, and when I get there, I notice the neckbeard in the next row of cars over, talking loudly with someone on the phone. Yeah, I know, it's BS. I come all the way out here and yet they frickin' ruin it. F, man. I think he mentioned going back in, and I wish I stayed for that if he did, but I had somewhere to be, so I left. This has been the only short sort of thing to happen to me, and I don't think I'll forget it. If somebody's having trouble finding something specific for you, please, for the love of God, do not get irate at them. They're just there to do their job. Don't be mean to people that are just there to help you. The best thing to do in this scenario is just, remain in a calm manner. If anything, just, show them a picture of the card pack you were trying to get, because trading cards do have significantly noticeable, icons and everything with the specific card that's on the front. You could have just showed her, hi, can I get one of these packs or something, and showing her the picture of the card pack you want to get. Really, that easy. But with that, that is going to have to be with the video. If you guys would love to be absolutely amazing, show your support, and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye!